Sign it. Baron Vane's fingers closed around her throat. Sign the marriage contract or I'll take your sister instead. She's younger. Tighter. I can wait a few years. I'm a patient man. Rosalind grabbed the brass candlestick from the altar and swung. The crack of metal against skull echoed through the chapel. The Baron crumpled. Blood pooled beneath his grey hair. She didn't check if he was breathing. She ran. If you love stories of women who fight back, who refuse to break subscribe and follow this tale to its end, tell me in the comments which city you're watching from. I'm always amazed to discover how far these stories travel. She went through the window. I saw blood on the glass. Rosalind pressed herself flat against the alley wall. Her palms were shredded. The wedding dress was impossible yards of white silk, catching on every nail, every stone. Find her, her uncle's voice. Vane paid £15,000 for that girl. Find her. She bit down on her bleeding hand to keep from screaming. Footsteps, getting closer. Check behind the bins. She couldn't breathe. The corset was crushing her ribs. The fog was thick, but not thick enough to hide white silk. Nothing here. Try the next street. The footsteps faded. Rosalind ran. Her slippers were useless on the icy cobblestones. She kicked them off, ran barefoot through the frozen filth, not caring about the cold, not caring about the pain, caring only about the single thought hammering through her skull. Emmeline, Henry, still in that house, still under his control. She had left them. She had saved herself and left them. The guilt hit her like a physical blow, but she forced herself to keep moving. She couldn't help them if she was dead. She couldn't help them if she was dragged back to that chapel and forced to, there. The woman in white, no. She threw herself toward the nearest carriage, wrenched open the door and dove inside. The interior was dark, empty. She pressed herself into the corner, drew her bleeding knees up to her chest, and stopped breathing. Outside voices. Did you see where she went? This way, I think. Check the carriages. All of them. A door opened somewhere to her left. Muffled sounds of searching. A coachman's protest. Her uncle's sharp command. The handle of her carriage moved. Rosalind's heart stopped. The door swung open. Well, a man's voice, deep and measured. This is my carriage. She couldn't see his face clearly in the darkness. Only his silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, blocking the lamplight. Please. Her voice came out broken. Please, I'll give you anything, just don't. Don't what? Don't tell them I'm here. He was silent for a moment. Then he stepped inside and pulled the door shut behind him. The space shrank instantly. She could smell him now, leather tobacco, something clean beneath. There's blood on my seat, he observed. I'm sorry, That wasn't a complaint. It was an observation. He sat across from her, his presence filling the shadows. Whose blood is it? Mine, and possibly Baron Vane's. Vane? His tone changed, sharpened. Cornelius Vane. Yes. What did you do to him? I hit him with a candlestick. Why? Because he had his hand around my throat and was threatening to rape my 15-year-old sister if I didn't sign the marriage contract. Silence. Outside, the searchers were getting closer. She could hear her uncle directing them, his voice tight with barely controlled fury. Check that one, the black carriage with the crest. This one. They were going to check this one. The man across from her didn't move. Your name, he said quietly. Rosalind Ashworth. The men outside. Who are they? My uncle's men, and probably some of the barons. Your uncle sold you to Vane for £15,000 and the promise of political favour. She heard herself laugh, a broken, ugly sound. I was told I should be grateful, that a baron was willing to overlook my poverty. The door handle rattled. This carriage. Her uncle's voice just outside. Open it. Rosalind stopped breathing. The man across from her leaned forward and knocked twice on the roof. Drive, he commanded. Now! The carriage lurched forward. Wait! Her uncle's shout was cut off as they pulled away. Stop that carriage! But they were already moving the horses, picking up speed, the wheels rattling over cobblestones as London blurred past the windows. Rosalind slumped against the seat. Her entire body was shaking. Why? She whispered. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why? I haven't decided yet. That's not an answer. No. He struck a match. In the sudden flare of light, she saw his face clearly for the first time. Dark hair, grey eyes, a jaw that looked like it had been carved from stone. It isn't. Your hands need attention. Rosalind looked down. She had forgotten about the cuts. Blood had soaked through the white silk of her bodice, spreading like dark flowers. I'm fine. You're bleeding through your dress. I said I'm fine. And I said your hands need attention. He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and held it out. This isn't a request. She took it. The fabric was expensive white linen, monogrammed with an elaborate B. Who are you? Sebastian Blackwood. The Duke of Ravenshollow. You know the name. Everyone knows the name. She pressed the handkerchief against her palms, wincing at the sting. The question is, why a duke is helping a stranger escape from her own wedding? The question is why a woman would rather jump through a window than marry a baron. I already told you. He threatened my sister. That's not the whole story. Rosalind's jaw tightened. How do you know? Because you're not just frightened, you're furious. He leaned back, studying her in the dim light. What else did Vane do? She didn't want to answer. But something in his voice, something that wasn't pity, wasn't curiosity, was something harder and more honest, made her speak. He's had 3 wives. They all died within 2 years of the wedding. Tragic accidents according to the records. Convenient inheritances according to everyone who bothered to look. She met his grey eyes. I was going to be the 4th. Sebastian's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between them. You knew this when you were brought to the altar. I knew it the moment my uncle announced the engagement. And you went anyway. My uncle has legal guardianship. I'm 23. I don't reach majority until 25, and he made it very clear. Her voice cracked. He made it very clear what would happen to Emmeline if I refused. Emmeline, my sister, she's 15. Rosalind's hands clenched around the bloodied handkerchief. There's a man, Lord Thorne, an associate of Vane's. He's been watching her for months. My uncle was going to sell her next. Sell? What would you call it? I would call it exactly what it is. Sebastian's voice had gone very quiet, very cold. And I would call the men who do it monsters. The carriage slowed, then stopped. We're here, Sebastian said. My townhouse. You'll be safe tonight. Tonight? She caught the word. And tomorrow? Tomorrow we make a plan. He opened the carriage door and stepped out, then turned and offered his hand. I told you, Miss Ashworth. I haven't decided why I'm helping you. His grey eyes held hers. But I've decided that I am. The door opened before they reached it. Your Grace, what in God's name? The housekeeper stopped mid-sentence, her eyes going wide as she took in Rosalind's appearance. Mrs. Bartlett, this is Miss Ashworth. She needs hot water bandages and a room for the night. But, sir, she's... Now, Mrs. Bartlett. Yes, Your Grace. The housekeeper's shock disappeared behind professional composure. This way, miss. Rosalind hesitated on the threshold. My siblings. They're still at my uncle's house. If he finds out I escaped, he won't touch them tonight. How can you be sure? Because they're his leverage. Sebastian's voice was matter of fact. He needs them to bring you back. Harming them would be counterproductive. You don't know my uncle. I know men like your uncle. They're predictable, they're cowards, and they only attack when they're certain they'll win. He nodded toward the door. Go. Rest. Tomorrow we get them out. She wanted to argue, but exhaustion was crashing over her in waves, and her hands were throbbing, and the events of the night were finally catching up with her. If you're lying to me, I'm not. If this is some kind of trick, it isn't. If anything happens to them because I trusted you, then you can destroy me. His expression didn't waver. I'll give you the means myself. Something in his voice made her believe him. Not trust, she had forgotten how to trust, but something close. She followed Mrs. Bartlett inside. Miss, you need to let me see your hands. Rosalind blinked. She was sitting on a bed she didn't remember sitting down, and a young maid was kneeling before her, a basin of water at her side. The cuts need cleaning, the maid said gently. May I? Rosalind extended her hands. The maid winced at the sight of them, but said nothing, just began carefully washing away the blood. What's your name? Jenny, miss? How long have you worked here, Jenny? 3 years, miss, since I was 14. And the Duke? Is he? Rosalind hesitated. What kind of man is he? Jenny's hands paused. He's fair, miss. Strict but fair. Pays well. Never raises his voice. She resumed her work. Some of the girls were nervous when they first came. You hear stories about men with power. But His Grace has never... She stopped herself. It's not my place. Please, I need to know. Jenny looked up, her young face serious. He had a sister, miss. She died young. After that, he started taking in girls from bad situations. Servants mostly, but not always. He gives them positions or helps them find work elsewhere. She paused. Mrs. Bartlett says he's trying to make up for something. I don't know what. A sister, who died young. Rosalind filed the information away. Here, she couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Baron Vane's face, felt his hand around her throat, heard his voice whispering threats about Emmeline. She's younger, tighter. She sat up in the darkness, her stomach turning. A knock at the door. Miss Ashworth. Sebastian's voice quiet through the wood. Are you awake? Yes. May I come in? She should say no. It was the middle of the night. It was improper. It was yes. The door opened. Sebastian stepped inside, still dressed, but with his cravat loosened and his coat discarded. He looked tired, the kind of tired that went deeper than one sleepless night. I received a message, he said, from someone inside your uncle's house. Rosalind's heart stopped. Emmeline Henry, are they? They're alive, unharmed. He crossed to the window, his back to her. Your uncle has confined them to the cellar. He's posted guards, and he's sent word to Baron Vane that you'll be returned by morning. Vane's awake. Apparently you didn't hit him hard enough. I should have hit him harder. Yes. He turned to face her. You should have. No judgment, no shock, just agreement. The message, she said. Who sent it? A woman named Whitmore, the governess. Mrs. Whitmore. Relief flooded through her. She helped me plan the escape. She was supposed to create a distraction while I... She stopped. Is she safe? She's been dismissed, but she managed to send this before she left. He handed her a folded paper. Rosalind's hands shook as she opened it. Miss Rosalind, by the time you receive this, I will be gone. Your uncle discovered my involvement and terminated my employment immediately. What you must know is this Baron Vane is not your only threat. Lord Thorne visited this morning. He offered twice what the Baron paid for Emmeline. Your uncle declined only because Vane has first claim. Now that you've fled, that claim is in question. Lord Thorne will return. Soon. Get the children out. W. The paper fell from Rosalind's fingers. Lord Thorne. She could barely form the words. He's worse than Vane. He doesn't want wives. He wants... I know what he wants. Then you know we don't have time. We have to get them out tonight, right now, before... No. What do you mean, no? Didn't you read the letter, Lord Thorne? Lord Thorne is dangerous. So is your uncle. And so is Baron Vane. Sebastian's voice was hard. If we move without a plan, we'll fail. And if we fail, your siblings won't get a second chance. So what? We just wait while they're locked in a cellar. We wait until tomorrow night. Your uncle hosts a card game every Thursday. He'll be distracted. The servants' entrance will be unguarded. He paused. I already have a man inside. Rosalind stared at him. You what? Mrs. Bartlett has a cousin who works in your uncle's kitchen. I sent word an hour ago. By tomorrow evening, I'll know the location of every guard, every entrance, every possible escape route. You've been planning this since I arrived. I've been planning this since you told me about your sister. She didn't know what to say. This man, this stranger, had done more for her in a few hours than anyone had done in months. Why? The question came out raw. Why do you care? For a long moment he didn't answer. I had a sister, he said finally. Her name was Catherine. She was 17 when my father arranged her marriage to a man named Lord Blackwell. He was 53. He had a reputation for cruelty that everyone in society knew about and no one discussed. Rosalind's chest tightened. I was 22. I had just come into my title. I had the power to stop it. I had the influence, the resources. His voice was flat, empty. I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my place. I told myself my father knew best. I told myself she would learn to adjust. What happened to her? She died in childbirth, 10 months after the wedding. He turned to face her. She was alone when it happened. Blackwell was in London with his mistress. The servants found her in the morning. Sebastian, I don't want your sympathy. His grey eyes were like ice. I'm telling you this because you asked why I'm helping you. And the answer is simple. I couldn't save Catherine, but I can save Emmeline. The words hung in the air between them. Tomorrow night, Rosalind said quietly. You promise? Tomorrow night. I promise. She did sleep eventually. A few hours of exhausted oblivion, dreamless and dark. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the windows. Someone had laid out fresh clothes at the foot of the bed, a simple grey dress, practical shoes, undergarments that actually fit. She dressed quickly and made her way downstairs. Voices from the front hall, raised voices. I know she's here, Blackwood. My men tracked the carriage. Her uncle. Rosalind froze on the stairs. And I'm telling you, Lord Ashworth, that you're mistaken. Sebastian's voice was ice. There is no one here but myself and my servants. Then you won't mind if I search the premises? I would mind very much. This is my home, not a public house. She's my ward. I have a legal right. You have no rights here. Sebastian's tone dropped lower, more dangerous. You are standing in my house making accusations without evidence. I suggest you leave before I have you removed. This isn't over, Blackwood. No, it isn't. But this conversation is. A door slammed. Rosalind realized she wasn't breathing. Footsteps on the stairs. Sebastian appeared around the corner and stopped when he saw her. How much did you hear? Enough. Her voice was shaking. He knows I'm here. He suspects. There's a difference. He'll come back. He'll bring constables. He'll do nothing. He has no proof, no warrant, and no legal standing. Sebastian climbed the stairs until he was level with her. Your uncle is a desperate man. Desperate men make mistakes. And if he doesn't make mistakes, then we make them for him. The plan came together over breakfast. Sebastian spread a hand-drawn map across the table. The layout of her uncle's house marked with X's and arrows. The card game starts at 8. By 9, your uncle will be too drunk to notice anything. The servant's entrance is here, he pointed. The cellar is here. My man inside will unlock the door at 9:30. And the guards? 2. One at the front, one at the back. James will handle the one at the back. James. My footman. Former soldier. He volunteered. Rosalind studied the map. What about me? You stay here. No. Miss Ashworth. They're my siblings. I'm not sending strangers to rescue them. You're injured. You're wanted. And if you're seen anywhere near that house, then I'll be careful. She met his gaze. I won't stay here waiting while my brother and sister are in danger. Would you? He was silent for a long moment. No, he admitted finally. I wouldn't. Then don't ask me to. The day crawled by. Rosalind paced. She read the same page of a book 17 times, without absorbing a single word. She stared out the window at the street below, watching for any sign of her uncle's men. At 4 o'clock, a messenger arrived. Sebastian read the note, and his expression went dark. What is it? Vane has filed charges. Assault against a peer of the realm. Rosalind's blood went cold. That means there's a warrant for your arrest, effective tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, but the rescue is tonight. Yes, so we have to succeed. There's no second chance. No. He crumpled the note in his fist. There isn't. At 7 o'clock, they gathered in the entrance hall. Sebastian dressed in dark clothes, James the footman, a broad-shouldered man, with the quiet calm of someone who had seen combat. Mrs. Bartlett, who had insisted on coming despite Sebastian's protests, and Rosalind in a servant's dress, her hair hidden beneath a cap. Remember the plan, Sebastian said. We go in through the servants' entrance at 9:30. James handles the guard. I find the children. Mrs. Bartlett gets them to the carriage. We're out in 10 minutes. And me? Rosalind asked. You stay with the carriage. If anything goes wrong, you drive. You don't wait for us. You don't come back. Sebastian, promise me. She wanted to argue, but she saw the look in his eyes, the same look he must have had when he was 22 watching his sister walk toward a monster. I promise. The ride to her uncle's house took 20 minutes. They stopped 3 streets away, hidden in the shadows of a shuttered warehouse. 9:25, James murmured. 5 minutes. Rosalind's hands were shaking. She clenched them tight. You don't have to do this, she said quietly. Any of you. This isn't your fight. No. Sebastian agreed. It isn't. Then why? Because some fights become yours, whether you choose them or not. He checked his pocket watch. Time. They moved. The streets were dark, the fog thick. Rosalind stayed in the carriage, watching through the window as Sebastian and James disappeared into the shadows. Minutes passed. Each one felt like an hour. Then shouting from inside the house. "No!" Rosalind's hand went to the door. "No, no, no!" More shouting, a crash, a scream, a child's scream. She was out of the carriage before she knew what she was doing, running toward the house, toward the sound of her brother's voice. "Henry!" The servant's entrance was open. She flew through it down a narrow corridor toward the noise. And then she stopped. Her uncle stood in the hallway, a pistol in his hand. Sebastian knelt on the floor, blood streaming from a gash on his forehead. And behind her uncle, held by two guards, were Emmeline and Henry. "Rosalind!" Her uncle smiled. It was the worst thing she had ever seen. "How good of you to join us." "Let them go." "I don't think so." Her uncle pressed the pistol to Sebastian's temple. "You've caused me a great deal of trouble, niece. Baron Vane is furious. Lord Thorn is impatient. And here I am having to clean up your mess." "Uncle, please, please," he laughed. "You hit a baron with a candlestick. You fled your own wedding. You brought a duke into my home to steal my property. And now you say please. They're not your property, they're children. They're my wards. That makes them mine to do with as I wish." He cocked the pistol. "Just as you were mine." Sebastian moved. It happened so fast, Rosalind barely saw it. One moment he was on his knees, the next he was twisting, grabbing her uncle's wrist, forcing the pistol up. The gun went off. The shot hit the ceiling. Plaster rained down. Sebastian slammed her uncle against the wall. The pistol clattered to the floor. "James!" Sebastian shouted. "Now!" The footman appeared from nowhere, taking down the first guard with a single blow. The second guard released Emmeline and ran. And then Rosalind was there, gathering her siblings in her arms, their thin bodies shaking against her. "I've got you," she whispered. "I've got you. It's over." But it wasn't over. Her uncle was laughing. Even pinned against the wall, blood dripping from his nose, he was laughing. "You think this changes anything?" he spat. "There's still a warrant. The law is on my side, and Baron Vane has very powerful friends." Sebastian leaned close. His voice was soft, deadly. "So do I. And unlike Vane's friends, mine don't care about scandal. They care about justice." He stepped back. "You'll receive a visit from my solicitor in the morning. I suggest you don't resist." "You can't touch me, Blackwood. I'm her legal guardian." "Not for long." Sebastian turned his back on her uncle and walked toward Rosalind. His face was bloody, his coat torn, but his eyes were clear. "Time to go." The carriage ride was silent. Emmeline and Henry sat pressed against Rosalind's sides, their hands gripping hers so tightly it hurt. Neither had spoken since they left the house. Sebastian sat across from them. His head tilted back, his eyes closed. The cut on his forehead had stopped bleeding, but it would leave a scar. "You saved them." Rosalind's voice was barely a whisper. He didn't open his eyes. "We saved them. You could have been killed." "But I wasn't." "Sebastian." "Not now." He finally looked at her. "We can talk tomorrow. Tonight, just let it be enough." She wanted to argue. She wanted to thank him properly, to understand why he had risked everything for people he barely knew. But Emmeline's head was heavy on her shoulder, and Henry's breathing had finally slowed, and for the first time in 6 months, her siblings were safe. It was enough. It had to be enough. Mrs. Bartlett met them at the door. "The rooms are ready," she said quietly, her eyes moving over the children with a motherly concern. "Hot baths, clean clothes, food. They'll be taken care of." "Thank you," Rosalind managed. "Don't thank me, miss. Thank His Grace." But when Rosalind turned to do exactly that, Sebastian was already gone. She saw him disappearing up the stairs, his shoulders bent with exhaustion. "He does that," Mrs. Bartlett said gently. "Takes care of everyone else, then vanishes to lick his wounds in private." She paused. "He's a good man, miss. Better than he thinks." Rosalind watched until he disappeared from view. "Yes," she said quietly. "I'm beginning to understand that." The children were asleep within the hour. Emmeline in the blue room, Henry in the room next door. Rosalind sat between them for a long time, watching them breathe, memorizing their faces. They were thinner than they should be, paler. There were shadows under their eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. But they were alive. They were safe. They were here. She pressed a kiss to each of their foreheads and slipped out of the room. She found Sebastian in his study, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring at the fire. "You should be sleeping," he said, without turning. "So should you." "I don't sleep well." "Neither do I. Not anymore." She crossed the room and sat in the chair across from him. The fire crackled between them, casting dancing shadows on the walls. "What happens now?" she asked. Now we wait for morning. My solicitor will file a challenge to your uncle's guardianship. We'll argue that he's unfit, that he attempted to sell you and your siblings for personal gain. Will it work? It might. These cases are difficult. The law favors guardians, especially male guardians. He took a long drink of whiskey. But your uncle is in debt. He's been caught in criminal activity, and Baron Vane's involvement makes it worse, not better. And Vane, the warrant for my arrest? I'm working on that. How? He finally looked at her. The firelight caught the cut on his forehead, the exhaustion in his eyes. Baron Vane has secrets, the kind that would destroy him if they became public. 3 dead wives tend to leave evidence if you know where to look. And you know where to look. I know people who do. Rosalind absorbed this. You've done this before, helped people like me. Yes. Why? The question hung in the air. Sebastian was silent for a long moment. Then he set down his glass and leaned forward. Because every time I help someone escape a monster, I see Catherine. I see her walking toward that altar. I see myself standing there doing nothing. His voice was rough. I can't change what happened to her, but I can change what happens to someone else. Sebastian, I'm not a good man, Miss Ashworth. I'm a man trying to outrun his own conscience. He stood abruptly. Get some sleep. Tomorrow will be difficult. He was at the door when she spoke. You're wrong. He stopped but didn't turn. You're not trying to outrun anything. You're trying to make amends. She paused. That's what good men do. He didn't answer, but she saw his shoulders tighten before he walked away. The knock came at 3 in the morning. Rosalind jerked awake in her chair, her heart pounding. She had fallen asleep in the study, the fire burned down to embers. Footsteps in the hallway. Voices. Sebastian's sharp with alarm. She threw open the door. A messenger stood in the entrance hall, rain-soaked and terrified. Sebastian was reading a note by candlelight, his face pale. What is it? He looked up. His grey eyes were hard as stone. Baron Vane has petitioned the courts for an emergency hearing. He's claiming breach of contract. He's demanding your immediate return. He paused. The hearing is set for tomorrow afternoon. That's impossible. How can they? He has friends in high places, friends who owe him favours. Sebastian crumpled the note. But so do I, and mine are more powerful. What are we going to do? He turned to face her fully. In the candlelight, he looked like a man preparing for war. We're going to fight. And we're going to win.
How can you be sure?
Because I'm not going to let them take you. His voice dropped.
Not you. Not your siblings. Not anyone else.
The words hung between them, heavy with meaning.
Sebastian, get dressed. We have work to do.
The clock struck 4. Rosalind stood at the window, watching the first grey light of dawn creep over London. Behind her, Sebastian was pacing, dictating notes to a bleary-eyed secretary who had been roused from bed an hour earlier. Send word to Lord Pemberton. Tell him I'm calling in the favour from the Ashford matter. And contact Sir William Hayes, he owes me for the shipping contracts. Yes, Your Grace. And find me everything you can on Baron Vane's first wife. I want to know how she died. I want names. I want witnesses. The secretary scribbled frantically. Anything else, Your Grace? Yes. Don't sleep. The man fled. Rosalind turned from the window. Will it be enough? I don't know. That's not comforting.
I'm not trying to comfort you, I'm trying to prepare you.
Sebastian stopped pacing and faced her. The hearing is in 10 hours. Vane has the advantage. He filed first, he chose the judge, and he has a signed contract. A contract I was forced to sign. Can you prove that She stopped. No, there were no witnesses except my uncle. Then it's your word against theirs. And my word means nothing. Your word means everything. He crossed to her, his grey eyes intense. But the law doesn't care about words. It cares about evidence. And right now, Vane has more of it. So what do? We find our own evidence. Something that proves Vane is unfit to be a husband. Something that makes the judge question whether enforcing this contract would be just. The wives. You mentioned the wives. 3 dead women in 8 years. All from accidents. All leaving him their fortunes. Sebastian's jaw tightened. Someone knows something. Someone always knows something. A knock at the door. Mrs. Bartlett entered, her face grave. Your Grace, there's a woman at the servants' entrance. She says she has information about Baron Vane. Sebastian and Rosalind exchanged glances. Send her in. The woman who entered was perhaps 50, thin and worn with the careful posture of someone who had spent a lifetime in service. She clutched a small bag to her chest like a shield. Your Grace. She curtsied awkwardly. My name is Martha Crane. I was lady's maid to Baron Vane's second wife. Rosalind's breath caught. Mrs. Crane. Sebastian gestured to a chair. Please, sit. I'd rather stand if it's all the same. Her eyes darted between them. What I have to say won't take long, and I'd like to leave before the Baron realizes I'm here. You're afraid of him. I'm terrified of him, Your Grace, as anyone with sense should be. Then why come forward now? Martha Crane's hands tightened on her bag. Because I heard what he's trying to do. Heard he's got another young woman in his sights, and Her voice cracked. I couldn't save Lady Margaret, but maybe I can save someone else. Lady Margaret was his second wife. Yes, the sweetest woman I ever knew. Kind to everyone, even the lowest servants. She didn't deserve... Martha stopped, drew a breath. She didn't deserve what he did to her. What did he do? He killed her. The words fell like stones into still water. The official story was that she fell down the stairs. Martha continued, her voice steady now. An accident. Tragic but unavoidable. But I was there that night. I heard them arguing. I heard her scream. And I saw... She opened her bag and withdrew a folded paper. I saw him standing at the top of the stairs, watching her body at the bottom, smiling. Rosalind felt sick. This is her diary. Martha held out the paper.
the last entry. She wrote it the night before she died. She knew, Your Grace. She knew he was going to kill her.
She begged me to keep it safe, to show someone if anything happened, but I was scared. I was so scared.
Sebastian took the diary page carefully. His expression didn't change as he read, but something in his eyes went very cold. She wrote that he threatened to kill her if she didn't sign over her inheritance.
Yes.
And that she had refused.
Yes. And that she feared for her life. Yes, Your Grace. Martha's voice broke. I've carried that page for 6 years. 6 years of knowing what he did and being too afraid to speak. But if there's a chance, any chance that it could stop him from doing it again.
It's enough.
Sebastian looked up. Mrs. Crane, are you willing to testify to what you saw? The woman went pale. Testify in court against Baron Vane? Yes. He'll destroy me. He'll have me thrown in prison. He'll do nothing. Because after today, Baron Vane won't have the power to destroy anyone. Sebastian's voice was hard as iron. I give you my word. I give you.
Martha Crane stared at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded.
I'll testify.
The next 3 hours were chaos. Sebastian's solicitor arrived, a sharp-eyed man named Hartley, who absorbed the new evidence with professional calm and immediately began drafting motions.
The diary entry alone isn't enough to prove murder, he warned, but it's certainly enough to raise questions about the Baron's character. Combined with Mrs. Crane's testimony and the pattern of his wives' deaths, we can argue that enforcing this marriage contract would be tantamount to sentencing Miss Ashworth to death. Will the judge listen? That depends on the judge. Hartley shuffled his papers. Do you know who's presiding? Not yet. Find out. It matters. Sebastian sent another messenger. Rosalind paced the study, her mind racing. What about my uncle? He's still my legal guardian. Even if we defeat Vane, he can just sell me to someone else. One battle at a time, Miss Ashworth. I don't have time for one battle at a time. The hearing is in... She checked the clock. 7 hours. And after that, there's still Lord Thorne waiting in the wings. I'm aware. Are you? Because from where I'm standing, we're plugging holes in a sinking ship. Sebastian stopped writing. He looked up at her, and for the first time she saw exhaustion in his eyes. Real exhaustion, the kind that went deeper than one sleepless night. Yes, he said quietly. We are. But we're still afloat. And as long as we're afloat, we have a chance. What if it's not enough? Then we find another way. What other way? He was silent for a moment. Then, there's one option we haven't discussed. What? Marriage. The word hung in the air between them. If you were married to someone else, Sebastian continued, his voice carefully neutral, Vane's contract would be void. Your uncle's guardianship would transfer to your husband, and Lord Thorne would have no claim on your siblings. Are you proposing? I'm presenting an option. That's not an answer. No. He met her gaze. It isn't. Before she could respond, the door burst open. Your Grace! The secretary was breathless, his face white. The judge. We found out who's presiding. Who? Lord Justice Blackwell. Sebastian went very still. Blackwell, he repeated. Yes, Your Grace. As in, yes, your brother-in-law, Catherine's husband. Rosalind looked between them, confused. What does that mean? Sebastian's jaw was tight. It means Vane chose his judge very carefully. Lord Justice Blackwell hates me. He blames me for Catherine's death, says I turned her against him. He's been waiting for an opportunity to destroy me for years.
So he'll rule against us. He'll rule against anything I support. Then we've already lost. No. Sebastian's eyes hardened. We've just found a different path to victory. What do you mean? Blackwell hates me, but he hates being embarrassed more. If we can make this case public enough, visible enough, he won't risk his reputation by making an obviously unjust ruling. How do we make it public? Sebastian smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. We invite the press? The courtroom was packed. Rosalind had never seen so many people in one place. Journalists crowding the gallery, society matrons whispering behind fans, curious onlookers straining for a glimpse of the principals. Baron Vane sat at the front, his temples still bruised from the candlestick. He looked smug, confident, the look of a man who expected to win. Her uncle sat beside him, sweating despite the cold. And at the judge's bench, Lord Justice Blackwell presided with barely concealed contempt. His eyes had locked onto Sebastian the moment they entered and hadn't looked away since. "This is a disaster," Rosalind whispered. "This is an opportunity." Sebastian's voice was calm. "Watch." The proceedings began. Vane's solicitor spoke first, a pompous man who droned on about the sanctity of contracts and the importance of upholding agreements between gentlemen. He painted Rosalind as a hysterical woman prone to violence and irrational behavior. "My client," he concluded, "simply wishes to enforce a legally binding agreement. Miss Ashworth signed the marriage contract of her own free will. Her subsequent assault on Baron Vane and flight from the ceremony do not invalidate that signature." Lord Justice Blackwell nodded. "Does the defence have a response?" Sebastian's solicitor, Mr. Hartley, rose. "We do, my lord, and we begin with a simple question. Why would a woman sign a marriage contract, then immediately assault her intended husband and flee through a window?" "Because she's unstable," Vane's solicitor interjected. "As I said, because she was in fear for her life." Hartley's voice cut through the interruption like a blade. "Miss Ashworth signed that contract under duress with Baron Vane's hand around her throat and his explicit threat to harm her 15-year-old sister if she refused." Murmurs rippled through the gallery. "That's a lie." Vane surged to his feet. "I never touched her." "Then how do you explain the bruises on Miss Ashworth's neck? The ones that were documented by His Grace's physician less than 12 hours after the ceremony?" Hartley held up a sheet of paper. "I have the medical report here, my lord. Fresh bruising consistent with manual strangulation. Would the court like to examine it?" Lord Justice Blackwell's eyes narrowed. "You may submit it as evidence." "Thank you, my lord. But we have more than medical reports. We have testimony regarding Baron Vane's character testimony that suggests this is not the first time he has used violence against a woman." "Objection." Vane's solicitor was on his feet. "The Baron's past relationships are not relevant to this proceeding." "They are if they establish a pattern of abuse." Hartley turned to the gallery. "We call Mrs. Martha Crane to testify." The murmurs became gasps as Martha made her way to the witness stand. She was shaking, but her voice was steady when she began to speak. "I was lady's maid to Lady Margaret Vane, the Baron's second wife." "And how did Lady Margaret die?" "She fell down the stairs." Martha's voice cracked. "That's what we were told to say. That's the story the Baron gave the authorities. But that's not what happened." "No, sir. I heard them arguing that night. Lady Margaret was refusing to sign papers that would give the Baron control of her inheritance. He was furious. And then I heard her scream." "What did you see?" "I saw the Baron at the top of the stairs and Lady Margaret at the bottom, and he was—" Martha's voice broke. "He was smiling." The courtroom erupted. "Order!" Blackwell slammed his gavel. "Order in the court! This is hearsay!" Vane's solicitor was shouting.
The ravings of a disgruntled former servant. It's documented testimony, my lord. Hartley held up another paper. And we have Lady Margaret's own words. Her diary entry from the night before her death, in which she explicitly states her fear that Baron Vane intends to kill her. He read the entry aloud. By the time he finished, several women in the gallery were weeping. Baron Vane's face had gone white. "My lord," Hartley concluded, "we are not asking this court to rule on whether Baron Vane murdered his previous wives. That is a matter for criminal proceedings. We are simply asking this court to consider whether it is just, whether it is moral to enforce a marriage contract that would place Miss Ashworth in the hands of a man with such a history." Silence. Lord Justice Blackwell sat very still. His eyes moved from Hartley to Vane to Sebastian, and finally to Rosalind. "Miss Ashworth?" she startled. "Yes, my lord. You have been silent throughout these proceedings. I would hear from you directly. Did Baron Vane threaten you?" Every eye in the courtroom turned to her. Rosalind stood. Her legs were shaking, but her voice was clear. "Yes, my lord. He put his hand around my throat and told me that if I didn't sign the contract, he would take my 15-year-old sister instead. He said—" She had to stop, breathe. "He said she was younger, tighter, that he could wait." A woman in the gallery screamed, "Liar!" Vane was on his feet again, his face purple with rage. "You lying whore, I'll see you ruined. I'll see you—" "Silence!" Blackwell's gavel cracked like a gunshot. "Baron Vane, you will control yourself, or you will be removed from this courtroom." Vane subsided, breathing hard. Blackwell turned back to Rosalind. His expression was unreadable. "Miss Ashworth, you struck Baron Vane with a candlestick." "Yes, my lord. That is assault against a peer of the realm, a serious crime." "Yes, my lord." "Do you deny it?" "No, my lord, I hit him, and given the choice I would do it again." More gasps. Even Sebastian looked surprised. "Explain yourself," Blackwell said. "He was going to hurt my sister. He had already hurt me. The law gave me no protection. My own uncle sold me to him. The church gave me no protection. The vicar continued the ceremony even when I begged him to stop." Her voice rose. "What was I supposed to do, my lord? Submit? Let him take me home and do whatever he wanted, then come back for Emmeline when he was finished with me? That is not. 3 wives." Rosalind cut him off. She was past caring about propriety. 3 women who trusted him, married him, died by his hand. Their families got settlements, their servants got silenced, and Baron Vane got richer. She pointed at Vane, her hand steady. "That man is a murderer. Everyone in this room knows it. The only question is whether this court will send another woman to die in his house." Silence. Total, absolute silence. Then Lord Justice Blackwell spoke. "This court will take a brief recess to consider the evidence." "You shouldn't have said that." Sebastian's voice was low, urgent. They stood in a side corridor, away from the crowds. "I told the truth. You accused a peer of murder in open court, without proof, without playing the game." Rosalind's eyes flashed. "The game that lets men like Vane kill women and face no consequences. The game that sold me and my sister like livestock." "Rosalind!" "No, I'm done playing. I'm done being quiet and proper and hoping someone else will save me." She stepped closer. "You told me to trust you. I did. But trust doesn't mean silence. Trust doesn't mean letting them win while I sit there like a good little victim." Sebastian stared at her. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "You're right." "What?" "You're right. I was trying to manage you, to control the narrative. But this isn't my fight, it's yours.
and you have every right to fight it on your own terms." Before she could respond, the doors opened. "The court is reconvening."
Lord Justice Blackwell's face
Gave nothing away as he took his seat. "I have considered the evidence presented. I have heard testimony from both parties, and I have reached a decision." Rosalind couldn't breathe. The contract between Baron Cornelius Vane and Miss Rosalind Ashworth was signed under circumstances that raise serious questions about consent. The medical evidence of injury combined with the witness testimony regarding Baron Vane's character suggests that Miss Ashworth had legitimate reason to fear for her safety. Vane was gripping the table so hard his knuckles had gone white. "However," Blackwell's voice hardened, "a contract is a contract, and however distasteful the circumstances, Miss Ashworth did sign her name. No, 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 no. Therefore, I am prepared to rule that the contract is valid and enforceable." Rosalind's knees buckled. Sebastian caught her arm. "Unless—" Blackwell held up a hand.
"Unless Miss Ashworth can demonstrate that she is no longer legally available for marriage." "What?" Vane sputtered. "What does that mean?" "It means, Baron Vane, that if Miss Ashworth were already married, if the contract were void by virtue of prior claim, I would have no choice but to dismiss your petition." "Already married?" Rosalind turned to Sebastian. He was looking at her with an expression she couldn't read. "Your Grace." Blackwell's voice was cold, but there was something else beneath it, something that might have been satisfaction. "You have been Miss Ashworth's protector throughout these proceedings. Do you have anything to say?" Sebastian released Rosalind's arm. He stepped forward. "I do, my lord." "Then speak. Miss Ashworth cannot marry Baron Vane." His voice carried through the silent courtroom. "Because she is already engaged to me." The gallery exploded. "So, what did you just do?" They were in the carriage racing away from the courthouse. Rosalind's heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. "I saved your life. You announced our engagement in front of half of London. Would you prefer I had let Blackwell rule in Vane's favour?" She stopped. "No, but then what's the problem?" "The problem is that you didn't ask me. There wasn't time. You could have warned me." "Would you have agreed?" "I don't know. I didn't have the chance to decide." Sebastian leaned back against the seat. For the first time, she saw something like uncertainty in his eyes. "You're right. I should have asked. I apologize." "Apologize? You just told everyone we're getting married. I told everyone we're engaged. Engagements can be broken. Not without scandal. There's already scandal. What's a little more?" Rosalind wanted to scream. She wanted to hit him. She wanted to why? Why what? Why do you keep saving me? First the carriage, then my siblings, now this. She leaned forward. "What do you want, Sebastian?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I want to make amends. For Catherine. For all of them. Every woman I couldn't save. Every monster I didn't stop." He met her gaze. "You asked me once if I was a good man. I'm not, but I'm trying to become one. And I'm what your redemption project? No." His voice softened. "You're the first person in years who's made me believe redemption might actually be possible." The carriage jolted over a rough patch of road. Neither of them looked away. "The engagement," Rosalind said finally. "What happens now?" "Now we make it real enough to satisfy the court. A few public appearances, an announcement in the papers, enough to convince Blackwell that I wasn't bluffing. And then when enough time has passed, we quietly end it. You'll be free. Your siblings will be safe, and no one will be able to touch you. That's simple. Nothing is ever simple." He paused. "But it's a plan.
Rosalind looked at him, this man who had upended his entire life for a stranger, who had lied to a courtroom, risked his reputation, made himself an enemy of Baron Vane and Lord Justice Blackwell and God knew who else. "Why do I feel like there's something you're not telling me?" Sebastian's expression flickered, just for a moment. Then it was gone. "Because there is." "What?" "The engagement can't just be for show. Blackwell will be watching. Vane will be watching. If they suspect it's a sham, they'll challenge it." "Yes." "So we have to convince them it's real." "Yes." "How?" Sebastian was silent. Then, "We have to live together, as an engaged couple, until the legal situation is resolved." Rosalind's breath caught. "Live together." "In separate rooms, with complete propriety, but yes, under the same roof."
Appearing in public as a couple, convincing everyone that this is genuine. For how long? Weeks, maybe months. Weeks, maybe months. Living with Sebastian Blackwood, pretending to be his fiancée, while Baron Vane plotted revenge and Lord Thorne circled her sister and her uncle, schemed from the shadows. "And if I say no, then we find another way." His voice was gentle. "I told you I won't force you into anything. Not like them. Not like them." That was the difference, wasn't it? That was what separated Sebastian from every other man she had known in the past year. He gave her choices. He respected her answers. "I need to think," she said. "Take all the time you need." "I need to talk to Emmeline and Henry." "Of course. And I need—" She stopped. "I need you to promise me something. Name it. Promise me that if this goes wrong, if Vane or Thorne or my uncle finds a way to hurt my siblings, you'll protect them, even if you can't protect me." Sebastian's grey eyes held hers. "I promise. Even if it costs you everything." Even then, she believed him. God help her, she believed him. "All right," she said. "I'll do it. I'll pretend to be your fiancé." Sebastian nodded. No triumph in his expression, no satisfaction, just quiet resolve. "Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I'm going to be a terrible fiancé." For the first time since the courthouse, he almost smiled. "I'm counting on it." They arrived at the townhouse to find chaos. Mrs. Bartlett met them at the door, her face white. "Your Grace, Miss Ashworth, there's been a development." "What kind of development?" "It's the children. Miss Emmeline, she's gone." Rosalind's heart stopped. "What do you mean, gone?" "She left a note, said she couldn't stay here any longer, said she was going to find Lord Thorne and make him leave her family alone." "She what?" "I'm sorry, miss. We tried to stop her, but she slipped out through the servants' entrance while we were—" Rosalind didn't hear the rest. She was already running. Sebastian caught her at the door. "You can't go alone." "Watch me." "Rosalind, stop." His hand closed around her arm. "Think. Lord Thorne is dangerous. If you burst into his house without a plan— My sister is walking into a monster's den because she thinks she can save us." Rosalind's voice cracked. "I don't have time for plans." "Then make time." His grip tightened. 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes to gather men, weapons, a carriage. Then we go together. Every second I wait, every second you waste arguing is a second Emmeline gets closer to Thorne. His grey eyes burned into hers. 2 minutes. That's all I ask. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tear his hand off and run into the night and find her sister and— Fine. 2 minutes. Sebastian released her and turned. "James, get the carriage, now, and bring the pistols." Mrs. Bartlett was hovering nearby, wringing her hands. "I'm so sorry, miss. I should have watched her more closely. I should have—" "The note!" Rosalind cut her off. "Where is it?" "Here." The housekeeper handed over a crumpled piece of paper. Rosalind read it, her hands shaking. Rosa, I heard everything. The engagement, the court case, all of it. You've given up your whole life to protect us, and I've done nothing but hide. Lord Thorne wants me. Fine, let him have me. But I'm going to make him promise to leave you and Henry alone first. I'm going to make him swear it. Don't come after me. This is my choice. I love you. Emmy. Stupid! Rosalind crushed the note in her fist. Stupid, brave, impossible girl. She thinks she's helping. Sebastian was back, shrugging into a dark coat. She doesn't understand what men like Thorne do to girls who try to negotiate. Then we explain it to her, after we get her out. Agreed. He handed her a cloak. Do you know where Thorne lives? Berkeley Square, the house with the black door. How do you know that? Because he came to our uncle's house 3 times. Each time he sent a card first. I memorized the address. Her jaw tightened. I memorized everything about him, just in case. Sebastian's expression flickered with something like respect. Good, let's go. The carriage was already waiting. James sat in the driver's seat, his face grim. Rosalind climbed in before Sebastian could offer his hand. How long to Berkeley Square? 15 minutes, maybe 20. Too long. It's the fastest we can go without killing the horses. She slammed her fist against the seat. She's been gone for at least an hour. Thorne he might already... Don't. Sebastian's voice was sharp. Don't imagine the worst. It won't help. How can you be so calm? I'm not calm. I'm focused. There's a difference. The carriage lurched forward, picking up speed. Rosalind stared out the window, watching the streets blur past, counting every second like a countdown to disaster. Tell me about Thorne. What? Tell me about him, what he looks like, how he talks, what makes him dangerous. She forced herself to focus. He's old, 60, maybe older, thin, wears his hair powdered in the old style, speaks very softly. You have to lean in to hear him. That's intentional. It forces intimacy. I know. She shuddered. He has a collection. That's what my uncle said. A collection of things he's acquired over the years. Things. Girls. Women. He doesn't keep them as wives. He keeps them as... She couldn't finish. I understand. Do you... Because my 15-year-old sister is about to walk into his house and offer herself to him. She won't succeed. How do you know? Because Thorne doesn't accept offers. He takes what he wants. Sebastian's voice was dark. If she's lucky, he'll refuse her and send her away. If she's unlucky, don't say it. I won't. But you need to understand what we're walking into. The carriage turned sharply. Rosalind grabbed the strap to keep from falling. What's your plan? We go to the front door. We demand to see Emmeline. If Thorne refuses, he will refuse. Then we force our way in. Just like that. Just like that. Sebastian checked the pistol at his hip. I'm a duke. I can get away with things that would land ordinary men in prison. And if you can't, then I'll deal with the consequences. After your sister is safe. Rosalind looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who kept throwing himself into danger for her family, who had nothing to gain and everything to lose. Why? The question came out raw. I know what you said about Catherine, about making amends. But this is more than that. This is personal. He met her gaze. Yes, it is. Why? The carriage jolted over a rough patch. Sebastian was silent for a long moment. Because I've spent 10 years watching men like Thorne destroy lives. Because I've attended their parties and shaken their hands and pretended not to know what they do behind closed doors. His voice dropped. Because I'm tired of being complicit. You're not complicit. You didn't. I did nothing. For years I did nothing. And nothing is its own kind of crime. Before she could respond, the carriage slowed. We're here, James called from the driver's seat. Rosalind's heart slammed against her ribs. Ready? Sebastian asked. No. Neither am I. He opened the door. Let's go. The house loomed before them, tall, dark, silent. No lights in the windows. No sign of life. That's wrong, Rosalind whispered. Thorn always has servants. Footmen at the door. Lamps in every room. Maybe he's not home. Or maybe he doesn't want to be disturbed. They approached the front door. Sebastian knocked 3 sharp raps that echoed in the empty street. Nothing. He knocked again. Harder. Still nothing. James. Sebastian's voice was low. Go around back. See if there's another way in. The footman nodded and disappeared into the shadows. We should wait, Rosalind said. Until he... The door opened. A man stood in the darkness, old, thin, with powdered hair and eyes like chips of ice. He wore a dressing gown of dark red silk, and he smiled when he saw them. Your Grace. Lord Thorn's voice was soft, almost a whisper. What an unexpected pleasure. And Miss Ashworth, I presume? Rosalind's stomach turned. Where is my sister? Straight to business. I appreciate that in a woman. Thorn stepped aside. Won't you come in? Where is she? Safe. For now. His smile widened. But we should discuss terms. Don't you think it seems we all want something from each other? Sebastian moved forward. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to collect Miss Emmeline Ashworth and leave. I'm afraid that won't be possible. Why not? Because young Miss Emmeline came to me of her own free will. She offered herself in exchange for her family's safety. A rather noble gesture, really. Thorn's eyes glittered. I accepted. Rosalind lunged. Sebastian caught her around the waist before she could reach Thorn's throat. You bastard! You sick, twisted... Such language! Thorn's smile didn't falter. I can see why Baron Vane had trouble with you. All that fire. All that passion. He tilted his head. Perhaps I should have pursued you instead. You would have been more entertaining. Let her go! Sebastian's voice was ice. Now! Or what? You'll challenge me to a duel. Call the constables. Thorn laughed softly. You forget, Your Grace. I haven't broken any laws. The girl came to me willingly. She's upstairs now waiting. Very cooperative once I explained her options. What options? Compliance or consequences? Thorn's smile turned cruel. She chose compliance. Rosalind stopped struggling. Something cold settled in her chest. Let me see her. I don't think... Let me see her. Her voice was steady now, deadly. Or I will tear this house apart, brick by brick, until I find her. Thorn studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed again, a dry, papery sound. You remind me of someone I knew once. A girl with the same fire in her eyes. She thought she could fight me too. He paused. She learned otherwise. I'm not her. No, you're not. He stepped back, gesturing toward the stairs. Very well. Follow me. But the Duke stays here. Absolutely not, Sebastian said. Then the girl stays where she is. Thorn shrugged. Your choice. Rosalind looked at Sebastian. His jaw was tight, his hand on his pistol. It's fine, she said quietly. I can handle him. Rosalind, I can handle him. She didn't wait for his response. She followed Thorn up the stairs. The hallway was dark, lit only by a single candle in Thorn's hand. Rosalind counted doors as they passed 1, 2, 3, 4, memorizing the layout, planning escape routes. You're clever, Thorn observed. I can see you thinking, calculating. I'm wondering how many girls have walked this hallway before me. Many. Most of them didn't walk out again. He stopped before a door at the end of the hall. Your sister is inside. She's unharmed, I give you my word. Your word means nothing. Perhaps, but it's all you have. He opened the door. Go on.
See for yourself. Rosalind stepped inside. The room was small, lit by a single lamp. Emmeline sat on a narrow bed, her face pale, her hands folded in her lap. When she saw Rosalind, she burst into tears. Rosa! Oh God, Rosa, I'm sorry. I thought if I just... Rosalind crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled her sister into her arms. Are you hurt? No, he didn't. He said he was waiting. Waiting for what? For someone to come. Emmeline's voice was muffled against Rosalind's shoulder. He said he knew you'd follow. He said this was all part of the plan. Rosalind went cold. She turned. Thorn stood in the doorway, still smiling. And behind him, stepping out of the shadows, was Baron Cornelius Vane. Hello, Rosalind. Vane's voice was thick with rage. Did you miss me? The door slammed shut. Rosalind pushed Emmeline behind her. Stay back! Where would she go? Vane moved into the room, his bulk filling the space. The bruise on his temple had turned purple and his eyes were red-rimmed with fury. Where would either of you go? Sebastian is downstairs. Sebastian is being detained by my men as we speak. Thorn's voice was calm. He was so focused on you that he didn't notice them entering through the servants' entrance. A mistake he'll regret. If you hurt him, we're not going to hurt him. Vane stepped closer. We're going to ruin him, and you're going to help. I'd rather die. That can be arranged. Vane's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist, the same grip he'd used in the chapel. But death is so permanent. I have better plans for you. Let go of me, or what you'll hit me with another candlestick. He squeezed until she gasped. There are no candlesticks here, Rosalind. No windows to jump through, no dukes to save you. His face was inches from hers. Just you and me, and a very long night ahead. Please. Emmeline's voice was tiny. Please, she didn't mean to hurt you. She was scared. We were both scared. Quiet. Thorn's voice cracked like a whip. You had your chance to negotiate, girl. You failed. I'll do whatever you want. Just let her go. Let Rosa go and I'll... Emmy, stop. Rosalind didn't take her eyes off Vane. Don't bargain with them. Don't give them anything. Such spirit. Vane's grip tightened. I'm going to enjoy breaking it. A crash from below. Shouting. Running footsteps. A gunshot. Vane's head whipped toward the door. What? Rosalind moved. She drove her knee up between his legs with every ounce of strength she possessed. Vane doubled over with a howl of pain, releasing her wrist. She grabbed the oil lamp from the table and smashed it against Thorn's head. Run! Emmeline didn't hesitate. She flew past the staggering men and through the door, Rosalind right behind her. The hallway was chaos. Smoke billowed up the stairs. Someone had started a fire. Through the haze, Rosalind could see figures struggling, hear Sebastian's voice shouting orders. "This way!" She grabbed Emmeline's hand and ran toward the back of the house, away from the flames, away from the noise. "Rosa, where are we going?" "Out. Any way we can." A door at the end of the hall. She threw it open, a servant's staircase, narrow and dark. They plunged down, half running, half falling, until they burst out into a small courtyard. Cold air hit Rosalind's face like a slap. She sucked in a breath, looked around, spotted a gate in the wall. "There! Go!" They ran. Behind them, the house was burning. Flames licked at the upper windows and smoke poured from the roof. Somewhere inside, men were still shouting. "Sebastian." Rosalind stopped at the gate. "Emmy, go. Run to the main street, find a constable, tell them, I'm not leaving you. You have to. I have to go back for Rosalind." Sebastian burst out of the back door, his coat smoking, his face streaked with soot. James was behind him, half carrying an unconscious man. "Go. Move." They ran. Through the gate, into the alley, onto the main street. People were emerging from their houses, now drawn by the smoke and flames. Someone was ringing a bell. Somewhere, a woman screamed. The carriage was where they'd left it. James threw the unconscious man into the back and climbed onto the driver's seat. "Get in! Now!" Rosalind shoved Emmeline inside and climbed after her. Sebastian was last, slamming the door behind him as the carriage lurched forward. "Is everyone all right?" His voice was hoarse. "Rosalind, Emmeline." "We're fine." Rosalind was shaking. "We're fine. What happened? How did you—" James found Thorne's guards at the servants' entrance. He dealt with them. Then we heard shouting upstairs. He stopped, took a breath. The fire was an accident. One of the guards knocked over a lamp. Vane. Thorne. "Are they—" "I don't know. The fire was spreading too fast. We had to get out." Rosalind looked at her sister. Emmeline was curled in the corner of the seat, her arms wrapped around herself, her face blank with shock. "Emmy! Emmy, look at me." No response. "Emmeline?" Slowly the girl's eyes focused. "Rosa." "Yes. I'm here. You're safe." "I'm sorry." The words came out broken. "I thought I could. I was so stupid." "Yes, you were." Rosalind pulled her close. "But you're alive. That's all that matters." The carriage raced through the dark streets, leaving the burning house behind. Rosalind held her sister and tried to stop shaking. "The man," she said suddenly, "the one James was carrying. Who is he?" Sebastian's expression went hard. "One of Thorne's servants. He saw something we can use." "Use how?" "Thorne doesn't just keep girls, Rosalind. He trades them, buys and sells them like livestock." Sebastian's voice was low. "This man knows where the records are kept, names, dates, everything. You're going to expose him. I'm going to destroy him and everyone like him." The fire in his eyes was terrifying and beautiful. "Sebastian, not now." He looked out the window. "We need to get your sister home, get her safe, then we plan our next move. And Vane. If he survived the fire, he'll come for us. If he didn't—" Sebastian paused. "Either way, this isn't over." No, it wasn't. But for the first time, Rosalind felt something besides fear. She felt hope. They reached the townhouse as the first light of dawn touched the sky. Mrs. Bartlett met them at the door, her face white with worry. Thank God you're all safe." "Take Emmeline upstairs," Sebastian ordered. "Hot tea, warm blankets, and don't leave her alone." "Yes, Your Grace." Rosalind started to follow, but Sebastian caught her arm. "Wait. There's something you need to see." "Can it wait, my sister?" "She's safe now. This can't wait." He led her to his study. A pile of papers sat on the desk, the documents from Thorne's servant, she assumed. "Look at this." He handed her a single sheet, a list of names. Rosalind scanned them, her heart pounding. Girls' names, ages, dates, and next to each one a price. These are all Thorne's acquisitions over the past 20 years. Sebastian's voice was bitter. Some of them were sold to other men. Some of them disappeared entirely. And some of them... He pointed to a name near the bottom of the list. Rosalind's blood ran cold. Emmeline Ashworth, age 15. Reserved. Buyer, Lord Marcus Ashworth. My uncle. The words came out strangled. My uncle was going to sell her to Thorne. Yes. Not as a wife, not even as a mistress, as merchandise. Rosalind sat down heavily. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. How long have you known? I suspected. But I didn't have proof until tonight. Sebastian knelt in front of her, his grey eyes intense. This is bigger than Vane, bigger than Thorne. There's an entire network of men who trade in women and children, and your uncle is part of it. So what do? We burn it down, all of it. His voice was hard as iron. Starting with your uncle. How? The same way we beat Vane. Evidence, testimony, public exposure. He took her hands. But it won't be easy, and it won't be safe. These men have power, they have connections, they'll fight back. I don't care. You should. Because if they can't destroy you through the courts, they'll try other methods. Let them try. Rosalind's voice was steady. I've been running since the night I jumped through that window. I'm done running. Sebastian studied her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. Together, then. Together. He stood, pulling her to her feet. They were close now, closer than they'd ever been. She could feel the heat of his body, smell the smoke still clinging to his clothes. Rosalind? Yes, the engagement. I know I didn't ask properly. I know I forced your hand. He paused. But I need you to know it doesn't have to be just for show. Her heart stopped. What are you saying? I'm saying... He stopped, started again. I'm saying that when this is over, if you want to walk away, I'll let you go. But if you want to stay... Sebastian. A knock at the door. Your Grace. Mrs. Bartlett's voice urgent. There's a messenger from the courthouse. He says it's about Baron Vane. Sebastian's jaw tightened. Send him in. The messenger was young, breathless, his face pale. Your Grace. Baron Vane's body was pulled from the fire an hour ago. He's dead. Silence. Rosalind felt the words hit her like a physical blow. Dead. Vane was dead. And Lord Thorne? Sebastian asked. Missing, Your Grace. They haven't found his body yet. Missing. Not dead. Missing. Thank you. You may go. The messenger fled. Sebastian turned to Rosalind. His expression was unreadable. One down, she said quietly. One to go. You think he survived? Men like Thorne always survive. They're like cockroaches. His hands clenched. But not for long. Not if I have anything to say about it. We have anything to say about it. He looked at her. Something shifted in his grey eyes, something warm, something real. We, he repeated. I told you. Together. For a long moment neither of them moved. Then Sebastian reached out and touched her face, a gentle brush of fingers against her cheek. Together, he said. And somewhere in the darkness of that cold December morning, Rosalind felt something new take root. Something that might have been love. 3 days passed.
3 days of waiting, planning, watching the newspapers for any sign of Lord Thorn. 3 days of Emmeline barely speaking, Henry clinging to Rosalind's side, and Sebastian disappearing for hours at a time to meet with solicitors and investigators and men whose names he wouldn't share. On the 4th morning, Rosalind found him in his study, staring at a letter with an expression she had never seen before. "What is it?" He didn't answer immediately, just handed her the paper. She read it, then read it again. "This can't be right." "It's right. My uncle is dead. Found this morning, in his study, a single gunshot wound to the head." Sebastian's voice was flat. "The authorities are calling it suicide." Rosalind sat down heavily. Her legs wouldn't hold her. "He killed himself. That's the official story." "But you don't believe it. A man who sells children for profit doesn't suddenly develop a conscience." Sebastian took the letter back. "Someone got to him before we could." "Thorn, most likely. Your uncle knew too much. He was a liability." "So Thorn killed him and made it look like suicide?" "Yes." Rosalind should have felt something. Relief, maybe, or satisfaction. This man had sold her like livestock, had tried to do the same to Emmeline, had made their lives a living hell for 6 months. But all she felt was empty. "What does this mean for us?" "It means your guardianship problem is solved. With your uncle dead and no other male relatives, you become your sibling's legal guardian by default." Just like that. Just like that. She laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "I spent months terrified of him, months planning how to escape his control. And now he's just gone. Does it matter how? I don't know." She looked up at him. "Does it?" Sebastian was quiet for a long moment. "When Catherine died," he said finally, "I fantasized about killing her husband. Every day for years I imagined different ways to make him pay. And then one morning I received word that he had died in a hunting accident." "What did you feel?" "Nothing. Absolutely nothing." His grey eyes met hers. "The revenge I had dreamed about for so long was stolen from me. Someone else pulled the trigger. Someone else got the satisfaction, and I was left with emptiness." "Yes. Is that what I'm supposed to feel?" "There's no supposed to. You feel what you feel." Rosalind stood. She needed to move, needed to do something with the restless energy building inside her. "Thorn is still out there." "Yes." "He killed my uncle to cover his tracks." "Probably. Which means he's scared. Which means we're getting close." Sebastian's expression shifted. "Yes, it does mean that." "So, what's our next move?" "We go public. The documents from Thorn's servant name 24 men involved in the trafficking network. Wealthy men, powerful men, lords, magistrates, even a bishop." He paused. "If we release this information to the right newspapers, we can bring the whole thing crashing down. And Thorn will have nowhere left to hide." "When?" "Tonight. I've arranged a meeting with a journalist from the Times. A man I trust. I want to be there." Sebastian hesitated. "Rosalind, don't. Don't try to protect me from this. These men destroyed my family. They almost destroyed Emmeline. I want to watch them burn." For a long moment he just looked at her. Then he nodded. "Tonight, then. Together. Together." The meeting was set for 9 o'clock at a private club in Mayfair. Sebastian's club, where he had influence and protection. Rosalind spent the afternoon with Emmeline and Henry,
trying to explain what had happened to their uncle without revealing the worst of it.
He's really dead.
Henry's voice was small.
Yes. Are we supposed to be sad?
Rosalind looked at her brother, 12 years old, too young to understand and too old to be lied to.
I don't know. He was our uncle. He was family. But he did terrible things. He hurt you.
Henry's jaw tightened.
He hurt Emmy. I'm not sad. Henry,
I'm not. His voice cracked.
I know I'm supposed to be, but I'm not. Does that make me bad?
Rosalind pulled him close.
No, it makes you human. What happens now? Now we're free, truly free. No one can take you away from me anymore. Promise, promise.
Emmeline had been listening from the doorway. She looked better than she had 3 days ago, the colour returning to her cheeks, the haunted look fading from her eyes.
Rosa, can I talk to you?
Of course. They left Henry with Mrs. Bartlett and walked to the small sitting room at the back of the house.
I heard you and the Duke talking this morning.
Emmeline's voice was quiet.
About Uncle Marcus, about going public.
You shouldn't have been listening.
I know, but I did.
She paused.
I want to help.
Absolutely not.
Rosa, no, you've been through enough. I'm not letting you. You're not letting me.
Emmeline's eyes flashed. I'm not a child anymore. I haven't been a child since Uncle Marcus told me I was worth £30,000 to the right buyer. The words hit Rosalind like a slap.
Emmy, I spent months living in that house knowing what was going to happen to me, knowing that every day could be the day he finally sold me. Her voice shook. And I survived. I survived because I told myself that one day I would make them pay. And you will. When you're older. When it's convenient. When it's safe. Emmeline stepped closer. You jumped through a window to escape a monster. You hit Baron Vane with a candlestick. You ran into a burning house to save me. Don't you dare tell me to sit back and wait until it's safe. Rosalind stared at her sister. When had she grown so fierce? When had the frightened girl become this steel-eyed young woman? What do you want to do? I want to testify, not in court. I know that's not possible yet, but to the journalist, I want to tell him what happened.
What Uncle Marcus did. What Lord Thorne said to me. Emmy, if your name is in the papers, then people will know. They'll know what these men do. They'll know what happens to girls like me. Her chin lifted. Maybe it will stop happening to someone else. Rosalind's throat tightened. I need to talk to Sebastian. He'll say no. Probably. But I'll make him listen. You're good at that. A ghost of a smile crossed Emmeline's face. Making him listen. Making him care. What do you mean? He loves you. You know that, right? Rosalind's heart stuttered. He doesn't, we haven't. Rosa, I've spent my whole life watching people, reading their faces, their voices, trying to figure out what they really wanted. Emmeline's voice softened. The Duke looks at you like you're the only person in the room, every time. It's complicated. Is it? Yes. We're engaged for legal reasons, to protect us. It's not real. Rosalind couldn't answer. Maybe it started that way, Emmeline said gently, but it's not pretend anymore.
At least not for him. She paused. And I don't think it's pretend for you either. Before Rosalind could respond, there was a knock at the door. Miss Ashworth. Mrs. Bartlett's voice was urgent. The Duke needs you, now. Sebastian was in his study, his face white. What happened? The journalist, the one I was supposed to meet tonight. He handed her a note. He's dead. Carriage accident this afternoon. Witnesses say the driver lost control. Rosalind's blood went cold. Thorn? It has to be. Someone warned him about the meeting. Who knew about it? Only 3 people. Me, the journalist, and my solicitor. Your solicitor? Sebastian's jaw tightened. Hartley has been with my family for 20 years. I trusted him completely. Trusted? I'm beginning to wonder if that trust was misplaced. You think he's working for Thorn? I think someone is. And right now he's the only one who knew about that meeting. Rosalind's mind raced. What do? We find out the truth. Sebastian moved toward the door. Stay here. I'm going to pay Hartley a visit. I'm coming with you. Rosalind? Someone just murdered a man to stop us. I'm not sitting here alone waiting to see if they come for me next. He hesitated. She could see the war in his eyes, the instinct to protect her battling against the knowledge that she was right. Fine. But if there's trouble, you run. Understood? Understood. They took the carriage to Hartley's offices in the city. The streets were dark, the fog thick, and Rosalind found herself checking every shadow for threats. You're tense, Sebastian observed. Someone just killed to protect a trafficking network. Forgive me for being concerned. Fair point. The carriage stopped. Sebastian stepped out first, scanning the street, before offering his hand to Rosalind. The building was dark. No lights in the windows. No sign of life. That's wrong, Sebastian murmured. Hartley works late. He always works late. Maybe he went home early. Hartley doesn't go home early. He doesn't go home at all most nights. He sleeps in his office. They approached the door. It was unlocked. Sebastian drew his pistol. Stay behind me. They moved through the dark building, their footsteps echoing on the wooden floors. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the creak of settling timbers and the distant rumble of carriages in the street. The door to Hartley's office was ajar. Sebastian pushed it open. The smell hit them first, copper and something fouler beneath. Then the sight. Hartley slumped over his desk, his throat cut, blood pooling beneath him. Rosalind turned away, her stomach heaving. Don't look, Sebastian said quietly. Don't. A sound behind them. Sebastian spun, pistol raised. Good evening, Your Grace. Lord Thorn stepped out of the shadows. He looked different than the last time Rosalind had seen him, older, thinner, his powdered hair askew. But his eyes were the same. Cold, empty, predatory. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Thorn. Sebastian's voice was ice. You're supposed to be dead. Rumours of my demise were greatly exaggerated. Thorn smiled, though not for lack of trying on your part. You killed Hartley. He was a liability, as was the journalist, as was Lord Ashworth. Thorn shrugged. I'm tidying up loose ends. And us. Are we loose ends? You, Your Grace, are a nuisance, but a manageable one. Thorn's eyes moved to Rosalind. Miss Ashworth, on the other hand, is a complication I can no longer afford. Sebastian moved in front of Rosalind. You won't touch her. Won't I? Thorn's smile widened. There are 3 men behind you with guns. I suggest you lower your weapon.
Rosalind looked over her shoulder. 3 shadows in the doorway. 3 gleaming pistol barrels.
Sebastian, do as he says.
Sebastian lowered his pistol slowly.
Let her go, Thorn. This is between us.
I'm afraid not. Miss Ashworth knows too much. She's seen too much. And after that charming speech at the courthouse... Thorn tisked. The whole of London knows her face. She's become something of a symbol, you see. The woman who stood up to Baron Vane. The woman who fought back. And symbols are dangerous. They inspire people, give them ideas. Thorn's voice hardened. I can't allow that. So what's your plan? Kill us both? A duke and his fiancée murdered in a solicitor's office that won't raise questions. Not if it looks like something else. Thorn produced a small vial from his pocket. A tragic accident. The Duke of Ravenshollow, driven mad by grief over his first wife, murders his new fiancée and then takes his own life. A romantic tragedy. The newspapers will love it. No one will believe that. They'll believe what they're told. They always do.
He nodded to his men. 2 of them grabbed Sebastian, forcing him to his knees. The third moved toward Rosalind. Don't fight, Sebastian said quickly. Rosalind, don't. But she was already moving. She grabbed the candlestick from Hartley's desk. Always a candlestick, some part of her thought wildly, and swung it at the man reaching for her. It connected with his temple, and he went down. Run! Sebastian was struggling against his captors, throwing off their grip through sheer force. Rosalind, run! She ran. Down the dark hallway, through the unlocked door into the fog-shrouded street. Her lungs were burning, her heart pounding, but she didn't stop. Behind her, she heard gunshots, shouting, the sounds of fighting. Sebastian. She should go back. She should help him. She should... Miss Ashworth. James materialized out of the fog like a ghost. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes were alert. The Duke sent me. Said to get you out no matter what. I can't leave him. He gave orders. James grabbed her arm. We have to go, now. They'll kill him. They won't. He's too valuable as a hostage. James was pulling her toward a waiting carriage. But you, Thorn, wants you dead. If we stay, we both die, and His Grace's sacrifice means nothing. Rosalind wanted to scream, wanted to tear herself free and run back into that building, and the doors burst open behind them. 2 of Thorn's men stumbled out, one of them clutching his arm. No sign of Sebastian, no sign of Thorn. Go! James shoved her into the carriage and leapt onto the driver's seat. Go, go, go! The horses surged forward just as a gunshot cracked behind them. Rosalind ducked instinctively, her heart in her throat. More shots. Then nothing. She looked back through the window. The building was receding into the fog, and Sebastian was somewhere inside it alone with a monster. We have to go back, she said. We can't. James, we can't. His voice was anguished. If I go back, I die. If you go back, you die. And then who saves His Grace? What do you mean? Thorn wants you, Miss Ashworth. He wants you badly enough to kill for it. As long as you're alive and free, he has something to lose. James's jaw tightened. His Grace knew that. That's why he told me to get you out. You're the leverage. You're the only thing keeping him alive. Rosalind's chest tightened. So what do? We go home, we regroup, we find another way. And Sebastian, we pray. The townhouse was in chaos when they arrived. Mrs. Bartlett met them at the door, her face white. James? Where's the Duke? What happened? Thorn has him. James pushed past her.
Get everyone inside, lock the doors, no one leaves until I say so. But now, Mrs. Bartlett. The housekeeper fled. Rosalind stood in the entrance hall, her whole body shaking. Sebastian was gone, captured, possibly dead, because she had run. I should have stayed.
You would have died.
James was already pulling down the shutters, barricading the windows. And so would he. At least this way we have a chance. What chance Thorn has him? Thorn has all the power. We have nothing. We have the documents. James turned to face her. The ones from Thorn's servant. The ones that name everyone in the network. The journalist is dead. Who would we give them to? Someone else. There are other newspapers, other journalists, other ways to make this public. Thorn will kill Sebastian before we can... Maybe. Maybe not. James's voice was steady. But if we do nothing, he dies for certain. If we fight, at least there's a chance. Rosalind wanted to collapse, wanted to curl up in a corner and weep until there was nothing left inside her. But Sebastian's voice echoed in her mind. Together. He had believed in her. He had trusted her. He had thrown himself between her and a monster because he believed she was worth saving. She couldn't let him down. "The documents," she said. "Where are they?" "His Grace's study, in the safe behind the painting." "Get them. Bring them to me." "What are you going to do?" Rosalind's jaw set. "I'm going to finish what we started." 2 hours later, she stood outside the offices of the London Chronicle, the documents clutched in her hands. The editor was a woman named Mrs. Clara Webb, a rarity in the newspaper business, but one with a reputation for fearlessness. Sebastian had mentioned her once in passing, said she was the only journalist in London who couldn't be bought. Rosalind prayed he was right. "Can I help you?" The clerk at the front desk looked skeptical. A young woman in a simple dress showing up after midnight with wild eyes and dishevelled hair. "I need to see Mrs. Webb immediately." "Mrs. Webb has gone home for the evening." "Then send for her." "I'm afraid that's not—" Rosalind slammed the documents down on the desk. "These papers contain evidence of a trafficking network that has been operating in London for 20 years. They name lords, magistrates, and at least one member of Parliament. A journalist from the Times was murdered this afternoon to prevent this information from being published." She leaned forward. "The Duke of Ravenshollow has been taken hostage by the man running this network. If Mrs. Webb doesn't see these papers tonight, he dies, and so do dozens of other women and children." The clerk stared at her. "Wait here." 20 minutes later, Clara Webb swept into the office like a force of nature. She was perhaps 50, with steel-grey hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She took one look at Rosalind and said, "You're the woman from the Vane trial." "Yes." "The one who hit the Baron with a candlestick?" "Yes." "Good for you." She held out her hand. "Let me see what you've got." Rosalind handed over the documents, Mrs. Webb read them in silence, her expression growing grimmer with each page. "This is explosive. I know. If I publish this, I'll make enemies. Powerful enemies." "I know. Some of these men could have me killed. They already killed a journalist from the Times. They've killed 3 other people in the past week, and they have the only man who tried to stop them." Mrs. Webb looked up. "The Duke of Ravenshollow. You said he was taken hostage by Lord Thorn tonight. And you want me to publish this to what force Thorn's hand? I want you to burn his empire to the ground." Rosalind's voice shook. "I want every name on that list to wake up tomorrow knowing they're ruined. I want them to turn on each other like rats on a sinking ship. And I want Lord Thorn to know that even if he kills Sebastian, even if he kills me, he's already lost." Mrs. Webb studied her for a long moment.
You love him, the Duke. Rosalind's throat tightened. Yes.
Does he know?
I don't know. I never... She had to stop. Breathe. I never told him. I was going to. I was waiting for the right moment. And now... Now you might never get the chance. No. Mrs. Webb nodded slowly. Then she turned to her clerk. Wake up the typesetters. Clear the morning edition. We're running a special issue. She looked back at Rosalind. And you, Miss Ashworth, are going to help me write it. They worked through the night. Rosalind told her story, all of it, from the moment she jumped through the chapel window to the moment she fled Hartley's office. She named names. She gave dates. She held nothing back. By dawn, the presses were running. The Lords of Darkness. London's secret trafficking network exposed. The headline screamed across the front page, accompanied by a list of names that would shock the city to its core. 18 lords, 5 magistrates, 2 MPs, and at the centre of it all, Lord Thorne. This will destroy them, Mrs. Webb said as the first copies rolled off the press. Every single one. Will it be enough to save Sebastian? I don't know, but it's the best weapon you've got. Rosalind took a copy and held it to her chest. I'm coming, she thought. Hold on, Sebastian. I'm coming. But as she stepped out of the newspaper office into the grey dawn, a carriage pulled up beside her. The door opened. And there, looking like death itself, sat Lord Thorne. Miss Ashworth. His smile was ghastly. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Rosalind didn't run. There was nowhere to run. 2 men flanked the carriage, their hands on their weapons. The street was empty in the grey dawn light. No witnesses. No help. Get in, Thorne said, or I shoot you where you stand. You won't shoot me. You need me. I need you alive. I don't need you unharmed. His eyes glittered. Get in. She got in. The carriage door slammed shut behind her. Thorne sat across from her, his thin face ghostly in the half-light. He looked worse than before, his hands trembling slightly, his breathing shallow. You've caused me a great deal of trouble, Miss Ashworth. Good. That newspaper. His voice tightened. How many copies? Thousands by now. Every newsstand in London. Every club. Every drawing room. She smiled. It felt like baring her teeth. You're finished, Thorne. Everyone knows what you are. Names on a page. Accusations without proof. It will blow over. Will it? 18 lords, 5 magistrates, 2 members of Parliament, all of them scrambling to save themselves right now. All of them wondering if they should turn you in to save their own skins. They wouldn't dare. They already have. I gave Mrs. Webb more than names. I gave her documents, financial records, letters, proof. Rosalind leaned forward. Your empire is burning, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. Thorne's composure cracked. She saw it, the flash of fear behind his eyes. You're lying. Am I? Check for yourself. Send one of your men to buy a paper. See how long it takes before you're arrested. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he knocked twice on the roof. The carriage lurched forward. Where are we going? Somewhere private, where we can discuss terms. There are no terms. I told you you've already lost. Have I? His smile returned thin and cruel. I still have the Duke, Miss Ashworth, and I think you care about him far more than you care about winning. Rosalind's heart clenched. Where is he? Safe, for now. Thorne's fingers tapped against his knee, but that can change very quickly. If you hurt him, you'll what, hit me with a candlestick?" He laughed, a dry, papery sound. "You're brave, I'll give you that. Foolish but brave. It's almost a shame I have to kill you. You kill me, you lose your leverage. I kill you, I eliminate a problem. The Duke is my leverage, not you." He tilted his head. "Although I admit his reaction when he sees your body might be entertaining." Rosalind forced herself to stay calm, to think. Thorne was desperate. The newspaper had hurt him worse than he was admitting. His network was collapsing. His allies were running. He was cornered. Cornered animals were dangerous, but they were also predictable. "You want to trade," she said. "Sebastian for what? My silence?" "Your silence. The original documents. A retraction from that newspaper." He paused. "And your sister?" "No. No, I would die before I let you touch Emmeline." "That can be arranged." "Then arrange it. Kill me. See what happens." Rosalind's voice was steady. "You think Sebastian will cooperate after you murder his fiancée? You think the newspaper will print a retraction? You think any of your allies will protect you when they see what happens to people who cross you? They're already afraid of me. Fear isn't loyalty. And right now, every single one of them is calculating whether you're worth protecting." She leaned closer. "They'll decide you're not, and then you'll be alone. No empire, no allies, no power. Just an old man who traded in children waiting for the hangman's noose." Thorne's hand shot out and grabbed her throat. She didn't flinch. "You think I won't do it?" His voice was a hiss. "You think I haven't killed before?" "I know you've killed. That's why I know you won't kill me. Not yet. Not when there's still a chance you can use me." She held his gaze. "You're a monster, Thorne. But you're a calculating monster. And killing me doesn't help your calculations." His grip tightened. Spots danced in her vision. Then he released her. "You're right," he said quietly. "It doesn't help. Yet." He sat back, smoothing his coat. "We'll see how brave you are when we reach our destination. We'll see how long your courage lasts when you watch what I do to the Duke. Touch him, and I'll destroy you. You've already tried, Miss Ashworth, and here I am." He smiled, still breathing. The carriage rolled on through the empty streets. 20 minutes later they stopped. Rosalind had lost track of where they were. Somewhere outside the city, judging by the silence. Somewhere isolated. Somewhere no one would hear screams. "Get out!" She got out. Thorne's men surrounded her immediately, their faces blank, professional. These weren't street thugs, they were trained. Military, maybe. Men who followed orders without question. "This way!" They walked, down a gravel path, through a gate, toward a building that loomed against the grey sky. Rosalind's mind raced. She had to find Sebastian. Had to get him out. Had to. A door opened. And there he was. Sebastian was tied to a chair in the center of a bare room. His face was bloody, his coat torn, and one of his eyes was swollen shut. But when he saw her, something flickered across his battered features. Relief. And then horror. "No." His voice was hoarse. "No, you shouldn't be here. You should have. What abandoned you?" Rosalind moved toward him. One of Thorne's men grabbed her arm, holding her back. "That was never an option. You were supposed to run. I told James. James got me out. I came back." "Why?" "Because I love you, you idiot." The words hung in the air. Sebastian stared at her. Even through the blood and the swelling, she could see his expression change. Shock, disbelief, and something else, something raw and vulnerable and utterly unguarded. Rosalind. How touching. Thorn stepped between them, blocking their view of each other. A confession of love in the face of death. How very romantic. Let him go, Thorn. I think not. He gestured to his men. Bring her closer. I want the Duke to see everything. They dragged her forward until she stood directly in front of Sebastian, close enough to touch if her hands weren't held behind her back. Here's what's going to happen, Thorn said calmly. You're going to watch me hurt Miss Ashworth, and then you're going to tell me where the original documents are. There are no original documents, Sebastian said. They were given to the newspaper. It's over. Nothing is over until I say it's over. Thorn produced a knife, small, elegant, deadly sharp. Now, let's begin. He pressed the blade to Rosalind's cheek. Don't. Sebastian's voice cracked. Please. I'll give you anything. Money, property, whatever you want. Just don't. What I want is to watch you break. Thorn's breath was hot against Rosalind's ear. And you will break your grace. They all do, eventually. The blade bit into her skin. A thin line of blood ran down her cheek. Rosalind didn't make a sound. Remarkable, Thorn murmured. Most people scream by now. I'm not most people. No, you're not. He drew the knife back. But we have time. Plenty of time. You don't have any time. Rosalind's voice was steady despite the pain. The newspaper hit the streets an hour ago. By now half of London has read it. Constables are probably already looking for you. Let them look. They won't find this place. They will, because I told them where it was. Thorn froze. You're lying. Am I? I gave Mrs. Webb everything, Thorn. Names, dates, locations, including the address of your private hunting lodge outside London, the one where you bring the girls. She smiled through the blood. How long until they get here, do you think? An hour less? You couldn't have known. Your servant talked. The one James pulled from the fire. He told us everything. The colour drained from Thorn's face. You're bluffing. There's one way to find out. Send one of your men to check the road. See if anyone's coming. For a long moment, Thorn didn't move. Then he jerked his head at one of his men. Go. See if she's telling the truth. The man left. 3 against 2 now. Still impossible odds, but better than before. It doesn't matter, Thorn said, but his voice had lost its confidence. Even if they come, they won't find you alive. Then you lose your leverage. I've already lost everything, haven't I? His grip tightened on the knife. The empire, the network, 20 years of work destroyed because of one woman who wouldn't stay broken. I was never broken. You just never looked hard enough to see. Oh, I saw. His eyes were wild now. I saw everything. The fear, the desperation, the moment you realized no one was coming to save you. He leaned closer. That moment when hope dies, that's what I collect, Miss Ashworth. That's what I feed on. And I'm going to watch it die in your eyes before this day is over. You'll watch nothing. A new voice from the doorway. Thorn spun. James stood in the entrance, a pistol in each hand. Behind him, 3 more men, Sebastian's men, Rosalind realized, the ones who had been searching for them all night. Drop the knife, James said calmly. Or I drop you. Thorn's men raised their weapons. Stand off,
Thorne said. How predictable. Not a standoff. James stepped forward. A rescue. The only question is whether you die now or in prison. I prefer option 3. Thorne grabbed Rosalind and pressed the knife to her throat. Everyone stands down, or she bleeds out on this floor. Sebastian. Rosalind's voice was calm. Close your eyes. What? Trust me. Close your eyes. He hesitated for only a heartbeat. Then he closed them. Rosalind threw her head back. Her skull connected with Thorne's nose with a sickening crack. He screamed, the knife falling from his grip as blood poured down his face. She dropped to the floor. James fired. The first shot took down the guard on the left. The second took down the guard on the right. The third, Thorne was running. Staggering toward a back door, his hand pressed to his shattered nose. "Stop him!" Rosalind screamed, but James was already moving, tackling Thorne before he could reach the exit. They went down hard, a tangle of limbs and fury. Rosalind scrambled to her feet and ran to Sebastian. "Are you all right? Are you?" I'm fine. His voice was ragged. "Cut me loose!" She grabbed Thorne's fallen knife and sliced through the ropes. Sebastian was on his feet the moment he was free, swaying but upright. "Rosalind!" He caught her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing away the blood on her cheek. "You came back. I told you I would. I thought I would never see you again. You can't get rid of me that easily." He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was desperate and fierce and full of everything they had almost lost. When they finally broke apart, Rosalind was crying. "I love you," she said. "I should have told you before. I should have—" "You just did." His forehead pressed against hers. "And I love you. I've loved you since the moment you climbed into my carriage and told me not to scream." She laughed through her tears. "That was a terrible first impression." "It was the best first impression anyone has ever made on me." "Your Grace." James's voice cut through the moment. "What do you want me to do with him?" They turned. Thorne was on the ground. His hands bound his face, a mask of blood and hatred. "You think this is over?" he spat. "You think you've won? I have allies, resources. I'll be out of prison within a month." "No," Sebastian said quietly. "You won't. You can't touch me. I'm a lord. I have rights. You have nothing." Sebastian stepped forward, his voice cold as ice. "Your allies are being arrested as we speak. Your resources have been seized, and every newspaper in London is printing your crimes for the world to see. Accusations, rumours, nothing that will hold up in court." "Then it's fortunate that we have more than accusations." Rosalind moved to stand beside Sebastian. "We have testimony from your victims, from the girls you traded, from the families you destroyed. They'll never talk. They're too afraid. They're already talking. Mrs. Webb is collecting their stories right now. By tomorrow, there will be so many voices demanding justice that no court in England will be able to ignore them." For the first time, real fear crossed Thorne's face. "You can't. I can. I am. And there's nothing you can do to stop it." Rosalind looked down at him, this monster who had haunted her nightmares, who had almost destroyed her family, who had thought himself untouchable. He looked small now, broken. "Take him," Sebastian said to James, "and make sure he lives long enough to face trial. I want him to see his empire burn before he hangs." "Yes, Your Grace." They dragged Thorne away. And finally, for the first time in weeks, Rosalind breathed. The ride back to London was quiet. Rosalind sat pressed against Sebastian's side, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her. Neither of them spoke. There was too much to say, and not enough words. They arrived at the townhouse as the sun climbed over the rooftops. Emmeline and Henry were waiting at the door. "Rosa!" Henry threw himself at her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "You came back! You came back! I always come back." She kissed the top of his head. "Always!"
Emmeline hung back her face uncertain. "Emmy, I thought—" Her sister's voice cracked. "I thought you were dead. When James came back without you, I thought—" Rosalind pulled her close. "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." The three of them stood there holding each other while Sebastian watched from a few steps away. His face was soft in the morning light, soft and full of something that looked like hope. "The newspaper," Emmeline said, finally pulling back. "Everyone's talking about it. The servants have been reading it all morning." "What are they saying?" "They're saying you're a hero." Emmeline's eyes shone. "They're saying you brought down the most powerful men in London." "I didn't do it alone." "No." Emmeline looked at Sebastian. "You didn't." Mrs. Bartlett appeared in the doorway, her face tear-stained but smiling. "Your Grace, Miss Ashworth, you should come inside. There are visitors." "Visitors?" "Constables, miss. They want to take your statement." She paused. "And there's a woman, Mrs. Webb from the newspaper. She says it's urgent." The next few hours were a blur. Constables came and went, taking statements, asking questions, confirming details. Mrs. Webb arrived with the early edition of the evening paper. The story had grown more names, added more victims coming forward. "It's bigger than we thought," she told Rosalind and Sebastian. "Much bigger. This network has been operating for decades. There are victims all across England. What happens now? Now we keep digging, keep publishing, keep giving these women a voice until no one can look away." Mrs. Webb's eyes were fierce. "This is the story of a lifetime, Miss Ashworth, and you gave it to me." "I didn't do it for the story." "I know. That's why it matters." By evening, the house was finally quiet. The children were in bed, the servants had retired, and Rosalind found herself alone with Sebastian in his study, where everything had begun. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Exhausted, terrified, relieved?" She laughed softly. "All of the above." "That sounds about right. What happens now?" "Now." He moved closer to her. "Now we decide what we want." "I thought we already decided. The engagement, the legal protection." "That was before." His grey eyes held hers. "Before you told me you loved me." Rosalind's heart stuttered. "Sebastian! The engagement doesn't have to be for show anymore. It doesn't have to be strategy or protection or a legal fiction." He took her hands. "It can be real, if you want it to be." "Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking you to choose, not because you have to, not because it's safe, but because you want to." "Sebastian, I know it's fast. I know we barely know each other. I know there are 1,000 reasons to wait, to be careful, to—" She kissed him, softer than before, slower, a promise instead of a desperation. When she pulled back, he was staring at her like she was the sun. "Yes," she said. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll choose you. Yes, 1,000 times yes." Her voice broke. "I spent my whole life waiting for someone to save me. And then you came along and you didn't save me. You stood beside me while I saved myself. You believed in me when no one else did. You fought for me when you had nothing to gain." "I had everything to gain." His thumb brushed her cheek, tracing the line of the cut Thorn had made. "I just didn't know it yet." "I love you. I love you too." He pulled her close. "For better, for worse. For whatever comes next." Whatever comes next. They stood there, holding each other, as the fire crackled and the night deepened around them. 6 months later. The wedding was small, held in the chapel at Ravenshollow. Just family Emmeline and Henry Mrs. Bartlett, and James Sebastian's mother and brother, and a handful of others who had earned their place in this new family they were building.
Rosalind wore white, not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Because the last time she had worn white, she had been running for her life. And now she was walking toward it. "Ready?" Emmeline asked, straightening Rosalind's veil. "I've been ready since the moment he let me hide in his carriage." "That's romantic. That's the truth." The doors opened. The chapel was filled with light. And there at the altar Sebastian waited. He looked different than he had that first night, less guarded, more open. The shadows that had haunted his eyes were still there, but they were softer now, joined by something brighter. Rosalind walked toward him. One step at a time, toward the man who had seen her at her worst and chosen her anyway, who had fought for her siblings like they were his own, who had burned down an empire to keep her safe. She reached the altar. Sebastian took her hand. "You came," he said softly. "I always come back. Promise. Promise." The vicar began the ceremony. Words of commitment, of union, of forever. When the time came to exchange vows, Rosalind spoke first. "I came to you with nothing, no name, no fortune, no future, and you gave me all three." Her voice was steady. "You taught me that home isn't a place, it's a person. It's the one who stands beside you when the world is falling apart. It's the one who fights for you, believes in you, loves you, not in spite of your scars, but because of them." She squeezed his hand. "You are my home, Sebastian, and I choose you. Today, tomorrow, always." Sebastian's eyes glistened. "I spent 10 years trying to outrun my past, trying to make amends for the people I couldn't save. And then you crashed into my life, bloody, desperate, beautiful, and you showed me that redemption isn't about the past, it's about the future." His voice dropped. "You gave me a reason to hope again, to love again, to believe that broken things can be made whole." He lifted her hand to his lips. "I choose you, Rosalind, not because you needed saving, but because you saved me first." The vicar spoke the final words, and just like that they were married. 1 year later, summer had come to Ravenshollow. Rosalind stood at the window of the library, her library filled with books and light and the laughter of children, and watched the gardens bloom beneath a cloudless sky. So much had changed. Thorne was dead, hanged 6 months ago after a trial that had gripped the nation. His network had been dismantled, his allies imprisoned or ruined. The girls he had traded were being found one by one and given new lives. Uncle Marcus's debts had been paid, his estate sold, his name forgotten. Baron Vane was just a footnote in the newspapers, now a cautionary tale about what happened to monsters when their victims fought back. And Rosalind had built something new from the ashes. A school for girls on the grounds of Ravenshollow. A place where no one would be sold or traded or told that their only value was their body. A place where they could learn and grow and become whoever they wanted to be. Emmeline was one of the teachers now. At 17, she had found her calling, helping girls who had suffered what she had almost suffered, showing them that survival was possible, that hope was possible. Henry was thriving. He spent his days with the horses, his nights with his books, and his weekends following Sebastian around the estate, learning what it meant to be a man of honor. And Sebastian, arms wrapped around her from behind. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything." She leaned back into his embrace. "How far we've come. How much has changed. Any regrets?" "Not one." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "I have news. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. She could hear the smile in his voice. Mrs. Webb sent a letter. The Home Office has asked her to consult on a new committee, one focused on protecting women and children from trafficking. That's wonderful. She wants you to join her. Rosalind turned in his arms. Me. You.
She says the committee needs someone who's lived through it, someone who can speak for the victims. He paused. Someone who isn't afraid to hit a baron with a candlestick when necessary. She laughed. Did she actually say that? She implied it strongly. What do you think? I think... He brushed a strand of hair from her face. I think you've spent the last year healing, building, growing, and now you're ready to fight again. His grey eyes softened. I think you're going to change the world, Rosalind, and I'm going to be right beside you when you do. Always, always. She kissed him. When she pulled back, the sun was streaming through the windows, and somewhere in the garden she could hear Emmeline laughing with the children, and Henry calling for his dogs, and all the sounds of a life she had never dared to dream was possible. I love you, she said. I love you too. Sebastian smiled, the real smile, the one he saved for her. Now come on, we have work to do. She took his hand. Together they walked out of the library into the sunlight, into the future they had built from nothing but courage and trust and love. She had entered his life as a desperate woman in a bloody wedding dress. She left it as a duchess, a fighter, a voice for the voiceless. And somewhere in between she had found what she never thought she'd have, a home, a family, a love that was not born from desperation, but from choice. From choosing each other every single day. That was the miracle. That was the gift. And Rosalind Blackwood, Duchess of Ravenshollow, would never stop being grateful for it. Not ever. The end.